All right, today I'm going to talk about festooning apple tree. This is what is this? A Honey Crisp apple that I've had a couple years. And so when I was young, I took the branches and I bent them like this and tied them down to the trunk right here and left them for a year. And the following year, I untied them and see how they look. They look pretty good. A few of them didn't go where I want. This one was rubbing against that one, so right now I have it tied to make it go over there. Let's get a 360 view of this baby. So as you can see, it's such a small plot that I put it. I wanted to make it fit, and so I'm just going to bend each one of these down as they grow. So maybe this one right here I'll bend down and fill in this space, and then the ones that I'm not going to bend down like these, I prune them, see right here, to an inch or so. Hopefully I can get them to spur. And if you don't know what spurring is, it's when you prune them, and apples and especially pears do it. They only grow like a quarter of an inch or a half inch each year, and then have a cluster of leaves and usually blossoms on the end. Let's see if we can find a spur on this one. This is pretty young, but hopefully as I prune these, they'll start to spur. So this is, as you can see right here, this is a spur. It just grew about this much last year, and then it put out this branch, so we don't want that. So I guess that's not a spur. But let's go over to my pear tree. This thing is spurred like crazy. So that's one pear tree, but that's not the one I'm talking about. There's my compost. So if we look at this pear tree, you'll see tons of spurs. Like all of these branches right here. Here's a spur. See how it gets fat and ugly? But then it puts out, each year it'll put out like a half inch and then a cluster of pears. That's all spur. That's years and years of spurring right there. Another spur there. So this pear tree really likes to spur out, and that's what I like. That's what I want. So here's another spur. Here's a spur. So when the leaves are in the winter, you can totally tell this is totally spurred. Here's a good spur right here. So that's what I want this apple tree to start doing. So I'll just continue to prune it. But this is called festooning again. So I don't know if it's new. I think it's a new thing, but I saw it in a book a while back. So anyway, and then when it gets to the length I want, I'll just cut the end of it down here, and then just continue to trim the tops, the ones that I don't want to bend down. Another apple tree of mine, it's actually variety, it has 4 different kinds, but let's see if we can see some spurring. This doesn't spur as much as my pear tree, but if you look right here, here's a spur. There's one, there's a good one. This has a bunch on it, but again, they just grow about a half inch to an inch a year, and throw out a cluster of leaves and fruit. See, this is not a spur. So what I'll do with this one is cut it, prune it right above a leaf, and I'll leave about an inch, and hopefully I'll get it to spur, but heck, I don't know. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. So here's some spurs on this branch. So that was last year before I got to post it. 100-mile-an-hour windstorm, which we get periodically, came down from the mountains, tore half of my tree down, and smashed my tree. This is all that's left. So, poor tree. So I just cut it off from where it broke. I'll probably dig it out. I have another one that I bought, a bare root one from Costco. It's a gala, and I'm starting to train it now. So I'm just starting to bend over these branches. I bent over one, it was right here, but I had too much of an angle and it snapped after a couple days, so I just cut it, and hopefully another leader will come. I cut the top here, well, it actually broke, and hopefully another leader will take its place, but then I'll just plant this in that same spot in about the fall. So that windstorm took out half of my tree, and the only thing that stopped it is that chain from my zip line. Otherwise it would have split all the way to the bottom. Not only did that windstorm split that tree, oh, while we're passing this, my neighbor is nativebees.com. He gives me these native beehives so they can get those mason bees and leafcutter bees to nest. Big old sycamores. The wind took one of the leaders, I don't know if you can see it, and smashed my neighbor's house. See, it smashed right there. They've already got it fixed, but you look up there, you can see the big old branch busted right in half. Woo, crunch. Bad day. I'm also starting a fan-shaped apple tree. I was going to do an espalier just with levels, but I didn't want to buy all of the scaffolding. It'd be like another 50 bucks. So I'm just gonna, I had a bunch of dowels. I'm just gonna do a fan shaped. So as you can see, I'll do a level layer on the bottom, and then probably a 30-degree angle on each side, and a 60 and then a 90. And then I'll hopefully get them to spur. So as you can see, some of these twigs are kind of bare. I read somewhere that if you notch above a bud, as right here, it will tell this bud to hopefully grow, and I did it to that one and that one, so we'll see if that's true. Here's an apricot tree that I have in my backyard. Instead of cutting the water sprouts off, those tall branches that grow straight up that you notice in the winter, I've decided to bend them and festoon them and tie them to a branch so they grow crooked. And as you can see, there's tons of fruit on them, and it doesn't make this tree any more attractive. This tree is not very attractive, but it gives me a lot more fruit that I can reach, and it reminds me of a famous Red Green quote: "If the women don't find you handsome, they might as well find you handy."